y'all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Y'all, tonight is a very special episode. We have our first Derry cast interview. The beautiful, talented Kimberly Norris-Guerrero, who plays Rose on It Welcome to Derry, is here. We're so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here, you guys. It's going to be so fun.
Y'all, I wish you could see her. She's all beautiful.
She looks like an angel.
Made up, and Mandy and I are all frumpy in our matching sweatshirts.
Well, since they can't see it, Becca, we should have lied, but
yeah, we look amazing. All right, well, since we're on a limited amount of time, let's go ahead and get started. Before we get into your time on Derry, we want to talk just a little bit about your early life. I saw reading up about you that you were adopted as a baby. So was I. And I know what an impact that's had on my life. So if you're okay to share, do you mind telling us kind of how that molded your worldview?
Yeah, absolutely. I was adopted at somewhere between 5 and 6 months.
Same.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was an Indigenous child in a white family in a small town in Oklahoma. And so it was always a sense of being other, but also being really loved. And I really relate strongly to like dogs from the pound. I mean, in the sense of like this real sense of rescue.
Oh, yeah.
Like a deep, deep sense of rescue, a deep sense of feeling like, wow, like this appreciation for almost like every little thing you're appreciative for, whether it's a coat or food or a warm car or a car period, I mean, just like really small things that even though you're a baby and you've grown up with that, a deep appreciation for everything, life included, and a family and all of those things. And so it gave me a very kind of sensitive heart to those that felt like when I would meet them, say, first, second grade, if I saw a kid that was out on the playground by themselves, I would never let them sit by themselves.
Aww.
Or if they felt in any way othered, I was always going to go over and spend time with that person and get to know them. And never, I didn't want anybody in my immediate circle that I was able to connect with to feel unseen or uncared for. Yeah, that just kind of defined it. I think that all comes back, from being an adopted child and from probably my time in the orphanage as well. While I don't know exact stuff, that period during Oklahoma history was a really dark period for health and social services. And they call us the throwaway kids. Any of the kids that were in orphanages during that time. There was just a lot of abuse and severe corruption going on in that world. And so when I was adopted, I had like a huge, bald spot on the back of my head, which means nobody's picking you up. Mm-hmm. And I was also really, really severely kind of bloated, which is the formula they give babies in orphanages so that they only have to feed them once a day. They're just like really carbs, and so the baby doesn't cry because they have something in their stomach. But that being said, my mom and dad that adopted me, Bob and Kay Norris, they said that they brought me home to Idabel, that I didn't wake them up in the night crying. I woke them up in the night laughing.
Oh, wow.
So I've always had, I always say goofy is my superpower. And so I've always had this just goofiness and this joy that is really, it's just, my husband calls it a fun bubble. No. And he loves to ride my fun bubble. And sometimes I'm like, you're riding my fun bubble too hard.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's really influenced everything and just, how I go about in the world and why I make the choices I make. Because I just kind of want to, I feel like I am really, when you say one of the lucky ones, I don't know, Becky, if you feel that way too.
Oh, yeah.
And then I really got lucky because beyond that, I was able to reconnect with my biological family when I was 20 years old. I've got my Indigenous family back in Oklahoma and on the res in Montana and Washington that I was able to connect with pretty young as well. So I've been able to grow up with kind of both sides. It's been a real gift, and I do not take it for granted.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love hearing that story.
Becky, I know you're going to move on here for a second and we don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to point out that Becky grew up biracial in a very small rural Tennessee town full of a lot of racism, and she had struggled with being accepted by both sides. So that's something that you both have in common. And I'm tearing up a little because I've just really fallen. I've realized when I started researching you today that I have been watching you since you and I were both very young in a lot of roles. And I've watched you in so many interviews now, and you both you guys have a spirit that I see, and I think that that's part of what draws us all like to this kind of story is that hatred of people, of what happens to you when you're other, that dislike of people being left vulnerable and how vulnerable you are as an outsider. And I think you guys have that in common.
Mhm. I get that. I see that.
Yeah, definitely.
That my sister over there.
Yes. Oh, you say that. You'll be getting Christmas cards here in a minute. Well, a follow-up question. We put out that we were interviewing you, and we got a couple of questions from some of our listeners. So, loyal listener Steve Brown wants to know, what was it like growing up in Oklahoma and then going to college in Southern California? Was that like a big culture shock?
Yes. So, yeah, I grew up in Idabel, Oklahoma, and I would say probably a population of maybe about 5,000 or
Oh,
6,000.
wow.
One of those towns where everybody knew each other's business and
Oh, yeah.
We're all small town girls here. Yeah.
Yes.
you knew everybody in every little crook and cranny of town. And I was a big, always on my bike, much like the kids in Derry or Stranger Things. I mean, I was an 80s kid. So I just knew everything and everybody knew me. And so it was really fun for me to go to not saying Los Angeles, I'm saying just one part of my university campus where there were more people in my dorm room than like in my section of town. And then going to the Rose Bowl for a football game, I was like, wow, this entire section of the Rose Bowl, I could fit my entire town, section A of the or whatever it was, section 101 of the Rose Bowl, they could all fit in here. So it was kind of fun going from completely known to completely anonymous.
It's so, I've already pointed out that I realized that I have been following you for since you and I were both pretty young. You've had some really amazing roles. You were on Son of the Morning Star, which I loved. I love that you are such a history junkie as well, and that was your major, and that so many of your roles have been historical. But my favorite, Reservation Dogs, that, in my opinion, one of the best television shows of the last 20, 30 years. I loved it. It ended too soon. I loved you on there. You were so funny. You were on Seinfeld. And now you've done August, Osage County on Broadway. I mean, you've just got such range. So like, how do you feel about comedy versus drama? Now horror. I mean, do you have a preference, or does it all feel very natural to you?
I love all of it. I prefer comedy.
You're great at it.
I love all of it. And I think I think you could even see it in Rose. Like I always feel like I find a way to bring a sense of humor or wit.
Yes.
If it's organic to a character, I always try to do that. And I think that is part and parcel to this indigenous joy that you find in communities that you rarely see in film and television. And so that's always really important to kind of show that aspect that I feel like isn't always represented. So I kind of always find a comedic moment within even the drama, just because I haven't met a lot of Native folks that aren't funny. Like even if it's not outwardly funny, it's just like they're snarky or they've got the dry humor or they're just like smart asses. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like the rhythm of comedy, but then it's just storytelling in this is such a gift. It's a calling and it's a gift. So I'm happy for for any story that I really believe in, that I can really get behind. I'm grateful.
Do you approach a role differently if it's comedy versus drama?
No. It's all approached very, I would say very dramatic. It's very real.
Okay.
Grounded, like Auntie B in Reservation Dogs. She's very serious.
Yes.
About her beadwork. She's serious about how much she gets for her beadwork. She's serious about kids staying away from her house because there's no copper in her house.
Right.
I mean, it's just like everything when it comes to comedy, and the higher the comedy, the more serious you have to be. The more It's like it's very real. And that's what makes it funny in the long run.
I find it so impressive. Once I realized that you were all of these different people and I never realized it, I mean, I was really blown away at how versatile
Oh
you
my
are. We've said
gosh.
this a lot on this podcast that our favorite people are the character, what people call character actors. It's a stupid label because who's not a character when
Oh,
you're an actor? But I love people that are more interested, like you were talking about adding humor to the character of Rose. I've picked up on that, and that's what has made your portrayal so phenomenal and different, is that there's a twinkle in her eye. Like she has this very serious task, and she is aware of how very dangerous it is, but her strength and resilience comes out in her humor.
Right. And I think that's true for our community in general. I come by it very naturally.
Somebody called somebody shit ass on this past episode, and I laughed out loud because it took me right back to Reservation Dog.
Yep.
Well, we have a follow up from friend of the show, Sam. She wrote in and said, "You are such a powerhouse of talent, charisma, humor, intelligence. Congratulations, Professor, and beauty." And I have to tell you, when we told her that we were interviewing you, she screamed out loud and
She
went on for a while.
fangirled
She's
out.
been a fan for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
She said, "It feels like you have made each character that you have embodied your own in such a beautiful way. Are there any roles or genres that you would like to explore next?"
I've always wanted to do sci-fi or like action kind of stuff, doing the finale. It's like, let me get in there and fight. And I don't foresee myself not being physical for a while. So I think Robin Wright does a really nice job, I think
Yeah.
similar age, and she's still doing action. And then obviously Joan Chen, and there's just a lot of folks that are out there still. So I think that bodes well, and this show may be that next step to be able to see me in the role of coming into a Marvel world, or honestly any kind of sci-fi or any action adventure. It could be a very grounded, gritty action show as well, but I really, really love action. I love doing my own stunts, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I have a very small role. I've been trying to find myself in The Abandons, but so I got to like ride a lot of horses in the Abandons on Netflix and stuff. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh, very cool. I have to check that out.
Yeah, I just saw that the other day.
Sam did also add, she said, "P.S. I was way too nervous to send in a voicemail. I've had a crush on you since 17-year-old me saw you on Charmed as Isabel Lightfeather. I love that show, and you were so fun. The flame still burns bright in a very respectful way. We women don't do creepy," with a laughing, crying face emoji.
No ick involved.
She was very concerned about that. She asked us this afternoon, "How could I say it that she knows I'm a woman?" And I said, "Maybe you could just mention that you had 2 X chromosomes and a working vagina your entire life. That would probably
That would clear it up.
and not be weird at all."
Not at all. No, it's an honor. And I love that you said I was a character actor too. That was always my goal.
I wanted to act when I was a kid. That's what I thought, until I realized I also wanted to have a family pretty young. And I knew that that was going to be a really, really difficult thing to balance. But I do mean that with my entire heart. And again, I don't want to take all your time, but I may never talk to you again. So I want to tell you that also, having turned 50 this year, one of the things that I also admire so much about you is that, and that I love that you brought up all of those other amazing women that are able to have these opportunities right now. And I just hope that you get every door in the world opened up for you. You deserve it.
100%.
You are very much an inspiration.
Thank you. Oh, it means the world. Truly, truly, truly.
We're going to go ahead and dive into Derry. And as fans of the story, we were all very excited to see this season dive deeper into how important the Native community in Derry is to the It mythology. And if we understood correctly, you were an advisor to the writers on that aspect of the story. So given the importance of the Indigenous community representation, how do you feel about the end product? And we know you can't give any spoilers about the finale, but did it play out on screen the way you'd hoped it would?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had a tremendous group of Indigenous folks collaborating with the writers, with Barbara and Andy. And then even on the day, if something would come up that didn't feel right or would feel more right, like shit asses was one of those things. Andy was always like, I think they had written "See You Fuckers" in 27 years, which is also funny.
Yes.
And so we're like, we'll definitely do that, but also just try shit asses. And just for the reservation dogs fans out there,
I
and
felt like it was an Easter egg for us.
yeah, it's a total Easter egg for folks that love that. And John Bear Mitchell was our Penobscot elder, and he's like, oh no, our elders would have completely said something like that in 1962. So it was both an Easter egg and still authentic to that. But Tazba Chavez, Cherie DeMoline, the amazing Indigenous author. And so there was just a large group of Indigenous, and then Joshua Ojic as well, who plays Taniel. We were just kind of all working together to make sure that things felt right and that we were representing that community, the Wabanaki Nation, in a way that would be most honoring to their authenticity and to their history and to their present and their future. And I feel completely proud of what's there and excited for what's next, because I was really interested to see what the global audience had to say about the Indigenous storyline. And it could have gone either way. I did a really beautiful movie on Amazon called The English with Emily Blunt and Choske Spencer. And, it was like, but it's so powerful if you go back and watch it. And so I didn't know. It's like, well, they're going to be like, oh, we just want to know about the kids, or we just want to know about what's happening in the military. So it really, really was heartening on such a deep level that the global audience is interested in the Indigenous storyline. And, I think just advocates for us moving forward, continue to unpack that. And it's something that Barbara and Andy were always, always, always passionate about diving into.
We just wish and I don't know how the season's going to wrap, but we just wish that we could get more of the story. And I hope this series does get picked up for the 2 other seasons they have planned, because Mandy and I were talking earlier at how if they go back in time, go backwards, that opens up the door for so much more of the Indigenous community story to be told, from where it started to where we're at today. So hopefully that light will shine on you guys, and we'll get to learn a lot more. It was great.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You seem like a woman who is constantly pushing boundaries and stepping out of your own comfort zone to take on new challenges. I wrote that, but it was very clunky to get out. I wanted to make sure that we got that in, because that, again, I am so blown away with how many hats you've worn throughout your life. And I just find it inspiring how you just keep pushing forward and doing new things. The older I get, even though I've always been somebody who liked stepping out of my comfort zone, I understand that it gets harder and harder as we get older. You want to settle into one thing, one genre, and you just keep blasting forward. And now you're a teacher. So how is that going? How's your first semester as a college professor?
Yeah, it's been going great. I actually started teaching probably in I would say the late 90s on the reservation. So
oh, really?
Filmmaking and acting out on reservations. And then when I got married, we created a film and music academy with fellow Indigenous artists. And ironically, Tazba Chavez, who worked as a director on the show, was one of our first students in our filmmaking academy.
Wow.
Our star pupil. So it's really fun. She was, I think, 14 or 15. So now she's hiring me for Reservation Dogs and for this, and we're working together in Rutherford Falls. So yeah, it's really full circle, watching a lot of our students thrive. And so it was really interesting taking my understanding of how to teach and my approach to working with students into the university setting. And I thought I really have to shift things around. But I found out that working on the reservation means a very student-centered pedagogy, just meaning you don't come in with a plan. You have a plan that you come in with, and then you sit and you see who's in the room. And collectively, while there's still leadership, it's more of a shepherding than a me sitting in the front and saying, this is what we're going to do. It's like, let's sit in a circle. Let's figure out who's here, introduce each other, and what we want to get out of our time together. And so it was a really seamless fit to go from working on the reservation to then working at the University of California, Riverside.
Yeah, that sounds like a much more Montessori type approach to teaching than you would get in your average high school or school experience.
Yeah, I think that you're probably right. And it was at the right time. I think I was hired in 2017. And we were going into a time where we were able to bring this idea of decolonization, which I get the idea of that phrase, but it can also see very like throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That's why it made me think of it, because I have a friend who just started teaching Montessori this year, and she is a huge believer, and she was so passionate and excited throughout our training. But then the rubber hit the road in the classroom, and she still loves it, but integrating it's a lot harder in practice than it is on paper.
Right, exactly. And so the door was open. And then, I wasn't hired as an indigenous person, but coming in, I said, I am going to bring an indigeneity, a worldview to storytelling that I do. I still teach these acting methods that are global, Suzuki, Alexander, viewpoints, the Laban effort. So things that you would get in any kind of acting school or conservatory. But they're always going to be through my own lens. Like, why do we tell stories? I believe that story is medicine, story as medicine. It can be good medicine, it can be bad medicine. I believe to taking care of the storyteller's instrument. I mean, that's not indigenous. That's just a psychophysical approach to acting, just understanding that we have to take care of our bodies because our bodies are holding on to these stories. So I just came in at a really good time. Like 2017, 2018 was a really good time to come into that teaching, and just allowed me to kind of settle into my own brand of how I approach acting and storytelling in general. And I also work with our MFA screenwriters. I'm also a screenwriter myself. So yeah, it's just been a real gift. And even, to be honest, just to have a steady paycheck, because as a working actor, there was never, like if I worked on Broadway and I made all that money, then that all got put into savings. And so my husband was in the music industry, and we just kind of learned perennially to live on a shoestring.
Yeah.
Just sock everything. Anytime he was working, we put it away. Anything I was working, we put it away, and then just tried to live as modestly as we could. So this is, it's been fun for both of us. Like, wow, there's a paycheck coming in and we have insurance. Like,
this is great.
That's one of the really interesting things we've really gotten to dig into with people in this podcast is we normally speak to people who are working actors. They're not the people that don't have to still really get in there and work for everything. And it's just amazing to see how versatile that's what you all have in common, is the versatility and the ability to wear many hats and to dig deep and find where you can find other creative outlets when the roles aren't coming in as quickly.
Right.
So again, man, I just really admire all of that. But Becky does, before we move past that, she really wanted to know, was there anything else you'd like to tell us about being a graduate advisor for screenwriters and playwrights? You mentioned that you do both of those things yourself. I mean, do you enjoy that aspect of it, being an advisor and helping out? I think you do, because I kind of feel like you've already answered that. You told me you've kind of been working with youth for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's super fun. And it's nothing I want to understand. I don't know how, like, I've worked with so many incredible screenwriters and writers and playwrights. And I mean, because, in an MFA program, I may have somebody my age and I may have a 24-year-old, and everything in between. But they're writing such wildly diverse topics and in tones and things like that. And it's always a little bit scary at the first when it comes in and you're like, what am I going to be able to speak into this person's script that is so wildly different than me? But then I start reading it and ideas start popping immediately. And I think that's my producerial mind. Like, I really think I kind of would fit in that role as well as a creative producer, to like, here's what feels like it's working for me. And here's what feels marketable, but not in a creepy marketable way, but just in a practical way, right?
It's the reality. It's a business.
It's a business, of like what is going to, and maybe a better way to say is what is really going to connect with audiences. And it's super fun to work with a writer and show them an aspect of their story that they may not have seen was so cool. And they're like, you think that's cool? I'm like, oh no, it's like wildly cool. And they start to unpack it, and all of a sudden everything starts to make sense, so to get to be a part of that process is like, oh. Or see a young person I mean, it may not even be a young person, but to see a writer going, I think this is too ambitious. And me have that thing going, I don't think so. Like, I think you got to push. I know it's going to be really hard, but I think you have to push. And then they do. And, 2 years later, they have this project that's just like, oh my God, thank God you did this. And yes, it was hard work, but it's it's a piece of craftsmanship, that'll be a great calling card for you when you go out into the world, as a writer. So yeah, it's just been such a joy.
Well, you're such an intelligent and experienced person, and you have so many different varieties of experiences to offer to a young person like that, that I think that matters. That's why they trust you. And I can't imagine how rewarding it is to feel like you've put that spark in someone and that you can take them something from your life, inject that into somebody else. I can't imagine anything more rewarding.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah, and the look on your face as you're talking about it, you're just so animated, and so you could just see the joy and love that you feel.
Or as you pointed out, and more people, I'm going back as I can, because I've got one that just got out and one that is just starting college, and I never finished my degree. But again, I'm one of those older adults that keeps trying to go back as I can, and having advisors like that it gives you wind when you feel like the world is just beating you to death. So
yes, I like doing that. I like being that fanner of flame. When I see a flame, I call it when I see it. Like, I don't bullshit people either. It's just like, no, there's something special here.
And that's why they trust you.
We all need a cheerleader in our lives.
Someone that you can trust, not just somebody who's blowing smoke up your ass.
Exactly. And to continue on it, how alike we are, I saw that you also cheered in high school. And I was just reading so much. I was like, oh my gosh, I could talk to her for like 2 days.
I know. It's been, Lily, bless your heart. You've really motivated us to stay between the mustard and the mayonnaise, because it is not
our strong suit. Well, I know we're running close to you needing to go. So before we do go, can you tell us where listeners can find you? Are there any causes, pages, projects, or anything that you would like to tell us about so our listeners can know?
Just find me on Instagram at Kimberly Norris-Guerrero, and please reach out. Don't be afraid to DM me or whatever if you have a question. And, I think it's just a cool thing if they're into it, just to kind of look, I can't think of it at the top, but I'll give you the link, but just to find the land that you're on and the history and the people of the land that you're on. I don't mean it's like I get the land acknowledgements. I don't think that should be forced upon anybody, a land acknowledgement before a show or whatever. But I just think it's cool to know the history of the place that you are and the people that live there. And are they still there? Are they not there? The place names, if you see an indigenous place name, what did that mean? And yeah, I just think it's just a cool way to connect with the land, because the land will talk back to you and connect with you if you connect with it.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we will be sure to post links to your social media in our show notes so listeners can find you. She mentioned if you DM her, she will answer. That is true. That is why we're sitting here talking today, because I just was like, I sent her a message and she answered. I was like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. It means the world to us when you guys take time out of your day to talk with us. And our listeners really, really love getting to hear from the actors in the shows that they love. And again, appreciate your time, and you are welcome back anytime. We would love to have you. I know there's so much more we could have deep dove into with you. So anytime you want to come back and chat, please let us know.
I love it. Thanks y'all so much. This was a total joy.
Well, you're very welcome. And oh man, I don't want to keep fangirling. Okay. This wraps up our interview with the very smart and talented Kimberly. Next up, we're going to be covering episode 7 of HBO Max's Welcome to Derry.
Woohoo!
Yes. Thank you everyone so much for listening. I'm Becky.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Mandy.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye.